Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of 100 Ways to Make 100K. I'm your host, Javon.ca, and on this episode, I want to introduce you to someone who started selling bug spray on the street corner and eventually grew his wings to spread across the country. Well, he will be soon. So I want to introduce you to someone by the name of Ryan Wise.
Hey, man, how's it going?
Not too bad. Yourself?
Oh, brother, I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for asking. So what was your name?
My name's Ryan Wise.
Ryan, man. Do you
Yes.
remember the first time you made $100,000 in a year?
I do.
Brother, you got to dive in, man. Tell me about it.
Okay, so I was struggling to make money. I didn't know what to do. I had about $500 in my bank account, and I was like, I need to make money. I need to survive. What am I going to do? I was working with a company that did West Nile virus testing around Ontario. So one year they didn't get the contract, and I said to myself, what am I going to do? I don't have a job anymore. A light bulb went off in my head, and so many people were asking me about backyard mosquito spraying. Obviously, like I said, the light bulb went off, and I started going door to door and getting people to sign up for backyard mosquito spraying, residential, of course.
That's
And
crazy.
My first year, we did about 100K.
What? Rewind for a second.
Sure.
You just knew about mosquito spraying? Like, how did you learn this stuff, man?
Essentially, the first job that I was doing was larviciding. So that was just treating like ditches, bodies of water with larvicide. But nobody in Canada at this time was actually doing residential mosquito control, whereas you go in and spray the entirety of the backyard, trees, bushes, and foliage. So we kind of were the pioneers to bring that into Canada.
That's crazy,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
Holy
yeah.
smokes. So how many doors do you think you knocked on, or how many how many people did you had to service to make that $100,000 in that first year?
I knocked on tens of thousands of doors. People didn't know about it. So, there's a lot of pushback. A lot of people said, oh, that probably doesn't work. So, I knocked on a lot of doors, but funny thing was about the first 20 doors I knocked on, 8 people signed up with me. So I was like, I have something here. I know that there is something here. And that was just the first step to making 100K in the first year.
That's crazy, man. So if someone came up to you and were like, hey, man, I want to make $100,000 in 1 year, what do you think your best piece of advice would be for that?
My best piece of advice. Wow, buy a Mosquito Man franchise. We got the blueprint. We can no. No, along with that, I would say to make 100K your first year, it's hard, but it's not as hard as what people think. You need to be the salesman yourself. You can't rely on other people to sell for you if you're the owner of a company. You simply have to get roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty for that. I don't think there's any way around it. I think every CEO at every company should be the one that makes the first customer sales calls. And then you farm that out as you make your $1 million in a year, right? So that's
Cool.
that's my advice.
Now, Ryan, do you remember the first time that you made $100,000 in a month?
Yeah, that was a big milestone, my friend.
Yeah, tell us, man. You got to dive in.
We were pushing, and if you think about it, $100,000 in a month, it's a big deal. It's a milestone that many companies try to reach, but unfortunately they don't get to that point. I have no idea. It was probably a mosquito-ridden night, 11 p.m. I was hustling on my bedroom desk or whatever. I was laying on my bed, closing deal after deal after deal, and I think we were at like 98,000 for the month. And I was like, okay, am I going to go to bed today at 98K and leave $2,000 on the table so that I can't say that we did 100K a day earlier? Hell no. I spent an extra couple hours. I dialed till about 11:30 at night, which, legally you can't dial in Canada past 9 p.m. Wink, wink. However, if clients are contacting me, it gave me the ability to say, hey, okay, I can text them at this time. I can give them a shout. And I ended up getting that 2K. It took me until probably almost midnight of that day. But I spent from about 6 a.m. till midnight that day closing. And I think I made about 18 grand that day.
Jeez.
Like I went off. It was my best day I ever
had.
Now,
was this was like the last day of the month or something?
Yeah, it was near the end of the month, but I remember that we were about $2,000 away from getting it, and I was like, no, there's no way I'm waiting till tomorrow to get this. I'm getting it now.
Hey, man, congrats.
So
how old was the business at this time?
The business was, I believe it was in year 3.
Okay.
I believe season 3.
Okay.
That we went from 100,000 in 1 year to having in year 3 Or in season 3, a month where we did 100K.
Wow, that's awesome, man. So what do you think it takes to get there? 100 grand in 1 month. Like,
100 grand
what
in
does that take,
one
man?
month. Wow, persistence. A lot of it is, like I always tell people, you have to have a sales team. Once you get to that level, you can't be making those phone calls anymore. You can't be selling. You have to farm out a sales team. You have to get people that want to hustle, but are consistent on a daily basis.
So when did you realize like how critical that sales team was? Like, when did it really click for you, man?
When I realized that I couldn't do any more of the sales calls. I was doing customer service and sales calls for about 3.5 to 4 years. And I had another guy helping me out for year 4. But then as year 5, 6, and 7 came along, I no longer make any calls. I train people, my techniques, my ways to close through a credit card over the phone. And I haven't looked back, my friend.
All right. So biggest tip for closing over the phone then. What is it, man? It's my day one at Mosquito Man.
The biggest tip for closing over the phone, don't give up when the client says no. If you're dialing and somebody says no, you have to understand and think about in your mind why they said no to you or why they're pushing you away. You have to have the right answers, but also the right questions to control the phone call. As long as you're, professional, you have a smile on your face, because people know when you're smiling through the phone. It's a fact. If you do that and you're persistent and you make enough phone calls, you'll be successful.
Nice, man. Well, we appreciate the advice.
Yeah.
So Ryan, you remember the first time you made 100 grand in a day?
You know what? I actually recently just cleared $100,000 in a day. It was a sale of assets that we've used over the period of time of Mosquito Man that we own now. So essentially, I saw an ability to gain more cash flow. And yeah, we're selling 3 of the vehicles that we've already paid off for about 100K.
Nice, man. That's awesome. Now, what do you think it'll take to get there in sales in the business?
Our best day that we've ever had in sales is about 36.5 in a day.
Beauty.
I think that next season we're going to be able to do multiple consistent 100K days, just based upon the fact that we're growing so big corporately. We have 15 locations across Ontario, and the fact that we're franchising heavily over the off season. I believe we're on projection to get 10 franchisees in the off season. So, I mean, with that amount of franchisees, with the amount of corporate locations and the sales team that we're building, I believe truly that we can do multiple 100K days next year.
Jeez. So let's say
the biggest thing is that $1 million day, boys and girls.
Jeez.
That $1 million day. That's what everyone needs to strive for.
So what do you think it'll take to get there?
$1 million day. You know what $1 million day consists of? It consists of selling, 5 or 6 franchisees that you've built up over time. Your sales team doing a couple $100,000 of sales, and essentially a lot of luck for that. Because I mean, it's not luck. However, sometimes you do need luck's hand in creating a $1 million day, even a $100,000 day, even $1,000 day. It just depends on what the level that you're at right now.
Nice. So if you were to go back to the Ryan that was on the corner, informing people about West Nile, right? And he was like, I want to make 100K in one day. What advice would you tell him?
I'd tell him to essentially do your research on things that you see a hole in the market for. Ryan already had the abilities, the capabilities, the knowledge about the mosquito industry. So honestly, if I'm you, I take knowledge that I have from previous things and apply it and start your own business. I would have told that Ryan to start his own business years prior had I met him before that. But yeah, that's what I would tell him. Start his own business. Don't give up, because the moment everyone's going to have those moments of feeling of giving up. But that's the main thing. You don't give up. You're persistent. You're consistent, and you fight like an animal to survive.
And Ryan, I am kind of curious, right? So your business, right? It's high volume. High volume of transactions, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think, like, the biggest lesson that you learned from a business that has a high volume of transactions? Like, what do you think your biggest tip for that type of business would be?
Well, my business is a subscription style business. So people sign up on a year-to-year basis. Now, it is, I feel, quite a bit more difficult to get that volume of sales. However, if what my suggestion is to try and get more out of that smaller volume, right? Our sales are only about $600 to $700 a year per customer, right? Now, what we're doing is we're trying to upsell that customer. We're trying to subscribe them on a yearly basis. So for us, the lifetime value of the client is very important. So if you're building a business of small sales, I would suggest try to make it a subscription business and a business where you have a long lifetime value of the client. You know, Starbucks lifetime value of their clients like 13 grand. I think ours right now is about 3. So essentially, you know, we're trying to follow that Starbucks mentality. You know, I love Tim Hortons, but Starbucks just has that better customer service. So that's kind of a business that we're emulating and following as far as world-class customer service, but also that subscription model where we want clients to come back to us year over year. So for anyone starting a business that's small ticket sales, that's the type of business I suggest you start.
Cool. Well, Ryan, where can we learn more about you, about your business, man? We'd love to follow up with you. We appreciate you, man.
They can learn more at www.mosquitoman.ca. There's the ability to actually, in the near future, we're going to have an e-commerce site up so you can buy online, as well as anybody who's interested in a franchise. There's a franchise page as well that you can fill out your information.
Beauty. Ryan, thanks so much for the time, man. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you very much, man.
Hey.
I appreciate you guys having me.
Be great. Bye.
Ciao.
And that sums up another episode of 100 Ways to Make 100K. Once again, I'm your host, Javon.ca. Now, fun fact about Ryan, he was actually one of the first people that I met and was like, man, yeah, I did 100K in a month. And it completely blew my mind. So just want to give him a huge shout out there. I hope you guys like this episode and can't wait to see you next week when we introduce our next guest. Peace.